Good day, y'all. Today we're servicing this Fox DHX2. This one is the 2016 to 2020 era iteration. It's important to note that there are two different variations of this shock. The 2016 to 2017 and so sorry, I'm just replacing or removing the valve cap and releasing the air from the IFB. Two iterations, yes, 2016, 2017. That one uses an O-ring in the seal head. The result of that is a little bit more friction, but in exchange, the shock doesn't blow up every 3 months. 2018 to 2018, 2019, 2020, yes, those 3 years, they use a U-cup seal, different seal head, groove diameter for the U-cup seal, and those are the ones that usually start leaking out here. So how do you tell which one you have? You don't, unless you know it's newer than unless you know it's a 2018 or newer. You know you have the new version. If it's 2016 or 2017, then you might have one or the other. Because the only difference is the seal head, which I think gets upgraded if you send it to Fox for a service at any point. I think they upgrade it by default. So anyway, whatever. I'm not gonna mess around with it too much. Important to note, this shock originally came with the Fox 5-weight R3 oil. That's been discontinued, and now Fox recommends the 4-weight Motorex oil, which they also sell as Fox 4-weight. It's rebranded. Nice little feature on this shock, that's your top out bumper. It's fossilized. It's completely fossilized and stretched out. It's normally just a regular O-ring, which is tight on the shaft, but not this one. Now it's gone. Okay, not bad. So that's cool. Pour this out. Nice and juicy. This one has a lock nut. And these ears, when you put this shaft under tension, these ears fold in and grab onto the shaft so hard it actually breaks off the tip of the shaft a lot of the times when you remove it. In that case, you need to replace the nut. It's a 1/4 by 28, 1/4 diameter, 28 threads per inch. So this one is actually removing some metal shavings, but it's not too bad. So I'm gonna be reusing this, amazingly enough. Or do we? Oh, I lied. We are actually going to replace it because in the future this old nut would be a problem, and it would lead to having to replace the shaft. This new nut, like I said, is just a zinc plated 1/4 by 28 thin profile nut. You can also buy it from Fox, part number 018-00-012. It's much easier if you don't buy it from Fox, obviously. So conveniently there is a dimple here, so I'm just pulling this piston off. This little travel spacer has an O-ring inside of it, so it's tight. It's gonna be tight on the shaft. I suspect this shock was preloaded excessively, because there's some wear on this, and we saw the problem with the top out bumper being completely destroyed. Anyway, this is cool. That's a travel spacer to the bottom of the bumper. Just gonna wipe these off, clean them off a little bit, get some isopropyl alcohol. Boom. Back on. Make sure the shaft is in good condition. Pretty cheap shaft actually to replace. If it's needed, it's fine. So next, also the other thing to look at is this spring isolator. Make sure no dirt falls into the shock. So this spring isolator this one is in good condition, but sometimes needs replacing. Wiped it off. Nothing more is needed. So I'm gonna put this back, and we're gonna blow some compressed air in here to blow out the IFP. So you can use one of those plastic nozzles on a pump, floor pump, or you can use one of these. Oh boy. One of these type of attachments. This one doesn't, this one's actually loose, but I just kind of put my hand over it and it works fine. Make sure to cover that side, the reservoir side, so the oil doesn't explode into your face. But you should be used to that by now anyway, so. If you watched all my videos, you should be used to exploding oil in your face by now. So anyway, this shock uses the U-cup type steel head. It's easy to tell because it was leaking some oil, sweating at least. So it's almost always the U-cup. Looks like that. Okay. So I'm just gonna replace the seals next. So I set aside this eyelet and shock body to let it drip out those remaining few drops of oil. And I'm going to replace the seals using this MTB Hydraulics Fox DHX2 2018 to 2020 routine service kit. This one covers the basics, which is all you really need to replace 98% of the time. So, you know, it has your seal head wiper and your seal head U-cup, top out bumper. That's the seal that was destroyed. That's your seal head thread seal, IFP and IFP cap, and then that's your bleed screw seal. That's it. So I'm just gonna pick these off. I already took out that U-cup. This is an aftermarket. In this case, just wiping this off. And of course, the orientation of the U-cup needs to be such that this U shape, so the dip is facing towards the oil. So I'm just using some, you know, this 2mm Allen key to kind of guide this in place. Sorry, so I was just putzing around. You can just use something dull, such as this Allen key or even a larger one. Just stuff in that last bit. Perfectly. So that's your wiper seal. Stuff in the edges, just like the other one, and then wiggle this in place. You know, it's a little bit more friction than the stock, but it's more robust, that's for sure. So that's your top out bumper. Boom. And then this little spacer. Okay. And then I'll put the piston on in the vise. That's the IFP seal. Boom. It's IFP cap. Boom. So that's it. And now we just gonna replace this bleed screw seal just for good measure. It really doesn't need replacing 98% of the time. I'm gonna take this opportunity to clean this out also. Clean out this bleed port. And that's it. She goes on. I'm gonna put this back on. Okay, so I'm gonna drop these back. Piston and shims. Wiggle them in place. Make sure it's all centered. You have that rig shim. And I'm gonna put this new nut on here. Pretty darn tight. It's a steel shaft, so it's not that, it's pretty hard to break it. And boom. That's the way it should be. When we put this back, of course we forgot to record the settings on 0 compression. Oh no, we did, sorry. We did. That's a different shock. We're filming several, so you know how it is. Okay, so I'm gonna grab this 4-weight Fox Motor X 4-weight. There you have it. So make sure your rebound and compression settings are all the way out. I like to put the lockout on. Oh boy. Oh boy. And And then I'm gonna fill this side, fill this almost to the top, and grab a glove, nitrile glove, and use this to pump it, kind of purge that base valve. Okay, good enough. We have some tiny bubbles here. Okay. Skim off these bubbles. And I was dumb. Forgot to undo the lockout. That's how it should work. My bad. So anyway, that's good enough. Put this in, drop this down. Okay. Drop this down. Make sure you have an oil pan underneath. And then, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Nice and tight. So next, to bleed this, I like to put this circlip in. There are many different ways to bleed it, but that's just how I do it. Put that circlip in, and come in here. Oh, by the way, that seal kit is available from mtb-hydraulics.com. I should mention that. So yeah, that's where you can buy it online. Ships worldwide. So I'm using this another tool from MTB Hydraulics here. That's your bleed syringe for Fox and Olin's fittings, plus a Fox 803-00-463, I believe. That's the part number for the bleed fitting. So yeah, you can, that way you can kind of hook onto here and bleed it. Never pull on the syringe. Always push on the syringe or push on the shock. And yeah, we're getting some air out. And then you can do this. Oh yeah. Just need to cycle this thing. You know, if you don't screw up the part that I did, where I was purging that base valve with the lockout lever, it bleeds a lot easier. So whenever I'm extending the shock, I'm pushing on this. And then push the IFP in. And then you'll see a lot of these small bubbles kind of circulating in here, but always look in the tube coming from the shock to see if there's anything coming out. That's probably good. Okay, so make sure it's fully extended, the shaft that is. And then we'll set this IFP depth. 1.34.
Correct.
1.34 inches and 125 psi. So, oh boy, and and the 1.34 you measure to the outside of the piston, the IFP that is.
Beside the grease guns.
Oh boy.
Oh, that's the fancy one.
Oh. Using the analog caliper. Okay. Vintage 1.34, I said. Oh, my syringe is full. So I'm just gonna empty out this syringe. And I'm not clamping this end of the shock because the weight of the shock can actually push it, compress it a little bit, which you don't want. Okay, so I emptied that out. Whenever you empty out, whenever you put a syringe on anything, there will be a tiny bubble that comes out. That's your the tip of your syringe capturing that. 1.34. Boom. So make sure this is nice and full. And put this on. Boom. So, last step, take the circlip out. IFP in. This is nice. This is coated with oil in here, so that's good. A little bit of lubrication. Press down on this valve so you don't capture too much air. And then, boom. Make sure to keep that. And it's 125 psi in here.